Hello Weathering fans, and welcome to our 17th Race for Terra Community Spotlight. In today's video you will have the chance to see 3 unique Horus Heresy projects: a Knight Detachment, a World Eater's Rhino, and an 18th Legion Terminator. Would you like to know more? This is Stefan's first entry ever in our community spotlight. For those of you who have seen other elements of his Knight army in our Discord, will not be surprised to see the quality of this entry. I had the pleasure of seeing Stefan's models on the battlefield at the Horus Heresy event which I ran in Germany back in August. And let me tell you, as amazing as these 3 knights are, this is just a small part of his Mechanicum army. So here you have the first Armiger with the Multi-Melta and the Reaper chain something or other. Now it is evident that Stefan pulled off a great rendition of the very popular House Malinac scheme. But if you look closely, there is far more than that. We can see details like the tasteful use of OSL, the amazing stencil work on this one, or the loving care that went into the bases, which really set these knights apart. On this second Armiger, with the 2 autocannons, we have a red stripe and some decals instead of that Chaos Star stencil. And the base, while similar, has some different details, like the barbed wire, a great way to give your army consistency, but avoiding repetition. And now for the crux of the matter, the main event. Have a look at these Moirax. Once again, I love the decal work, which really helps convey a sense of immersion. The OSL is intense, but not overpowering. And then there's the base. Stefan explains that he had this idea of having the knight, and I quote, towering over a trench while his allies are sweeping off the last enemies. Regarding the weathering, he goes on to say that his goal was to portray a knight army patrolling the remains of a planet ravaged by war that is reduced to rubble, dust, and rust. Well, Stefan, I have always said that the best Horus Heresy painting is not exactly about realism as such, but about verisimilitude. Now, what is verisimilitude, you ask? Well, that's making the viewer feel immersed in a setting which they know is fictional. I must say that when I look at a lot of people's models these days, and I mean Horus Heresy models, regretfully, the first thing that I see is the techniques that they have used. For example, I can't help but immediately see any scratches or chips that have been painted on, or for example edge highlighting, and at that point it's game over. Immersion is completely broken for me. The model may well be beautiful, but in a second I will have already clicked away or turned the page. Now instead, when I look at your knights, what I see is the despair of those last Imperial remnants, as they are obliterated by House Malinac. If you ask me, there is no higher praise possible. This is Lee's 4th entry to date, after a Spitfire, a Mega Grot tank, and a World Eater's Dreadnought. Now Lee's tastes may be eclectic, much like mine, but I would say that Spitfires, Orcs, and World Eaters have something in common: speed. And what better way for a squad of bloodthirsty World Eaters to get to the battlefront quickly than a disposable Rhino APC? Now, as you can see, Lee, like myself, has already turned to the dark side of Heresy painting and embraced the use of lacquers in order to create a desaturated, industrial look to the vehicle. Using these much tougher paints has also allowed her to create a different style of chipping. As she explains, and I quote, "Chipping was a different process, as I'm used to acrylics coming up right away with a touch of the brush and water. It's a lot of fun to be able to be quite a bit harder on the paint without damaging the model itself." Now Lee always tries new techniques or products with each project, and this was no exception. In this case, she explains that she used ammo of Make Nature effects for a mud splatter technique for the first time to simulate a vehicle that had traversed through mud. Here you can see 2 work-in-progress shots showing us the different stages her Rhino went through, from base coating to heavy or heavy metal chipping. My favorite element in this build is the stencil work on the upper part of the chassis. That worn out arrow looks great, but have you thought about adding some blood, perhaps? Well, Lee, it's clear that you had a lot of fun with this, but I'd love to know what you're going to tackle next. Even though this is his first ever entry in our community spotlight, Jimmy has been a regular contributor to our 3D printing channel in the Discord. This unusual but awesome looking Terminator design is from a guy that goes by Forges of Sion on Cults 3D. But Jimmy has made some modifications of his own to the STL. Now, even for a casual observer, it's evident that Jimmy must have had a clear narrative in mind when choosing not just this very original sculpt, but also his color scheme. Now, he did indeed, and I would like to read his explanation to you. The Word Bearers are a legion with artwork that provides a striking metallic scheme that is unlike the others of its class in the Horus Heresy. Legions like the Thousand Sons have a gorgeous ruby red, bright and powerful, or the Emperor's Children with their saturated and powerful purples. The 18th Legion, however, has a desaturated, dark, and almost evil crimson, something that proved difficult to achieve with the standard Tamiya clear treatment without some ad hoc adjustments. Later on, he goes to explain that his goal was to achieve what he calls storytelling through subtle weathering and effects. Achieving such a goal, whilst maintaining such great attention to detail, wouldn't be easy for anyone. Jimmy explains, and I quote, "With the help of the community and the courage to keep on with a project I felt was doomed, I achieved what I think is my best painted model to date." Well, Jimmy, this is a perfect example of why I think our Discord community is really special. I'm looking forward to your next contributions, both in terms of painting and STL designs. So guys, I hope you enjoyed tonight's spotlight as much as I have. Our next one will take place around February. And remember, anybody in our Discord is welcome to enter. Once again, I would like to thank everyone who's supporting me as a YouTube member. Your generosity, guys, helps me keep the lights on, and your positive energy makes everyone else feel really at home in the Discord. Thank you all, and remember, keep it up and weather it out.